As I continue to shun the AAA titles, for the most part, there are still some that I pick up and love and adore. I continually find solace in indie games and retro games. So when a small indie developer releases a game called Froggie, a retro platformer, colour me intrigued with a thinky face emoji. And so I got this for the PS4, PS5 cross-buy. It was dirt cheap. And it needed to be, because this game boasts that it's got 100 levels. It does not. We will get onto that in a second. But it's also probably one of the most easiest platformers that I've played that doesn't feel like it's been written specifically to just give someone a 5-minute platinum trophy, if that makes sense. In Froggie, you play as Froggie, who is able to run and jump, and that's it. They have no other abilities. In order to kill enemies, you jump on their heads, but what you'll be doing largely is going across multi-screen levels, thankfully not single screen levels, which is what lots of retro games try to do when they go to console. And Froggie is much better for not doing that, to be fair. But you'll literally just be jumping across gaps, jumping across spikes, jumping on the heads of enemies, and occasionally having to jump between some moving platforms on occasion. But that only comes out right towards the end of the game, and that's literally where the difficulty level stops. Yes, there's some perhaps timing required, particularly when a lot of the enemies are on small platforms. So you just have to make sure that if you're going to jump from platform to platform, try and jump on an enemy's heads and time it that way. And there is a little bit of wall jumping involved too, but it's extremely forgiving. And particularly as levels get longer, you get multi-checkpoints, so you don't really go back too far when you die. And it wasn't very often that I did die. But when I did die, I didn't often always think it was my fault. I felt it was the game's. And this is because Froggie has a little bit of an aftertouch problem. With precision platformers, quite often when you stop, there's a very specific, either like a couple of frames movement as like an after run stop dead, or you just stop dead in your tracks. Froggie kind of slows down a little bit before he stops, or she stops. And whilst this is fine in general, going back to having enemies on really small platforms, sometimes you'd land on the platform if you didn't land on the enemy, and then you'd kind of run forward a little bit into the enemy, and that got a little bit annoying. The one that kind of felt odd to me, though, was whenever I got to the edge of a ledge. That's going to be difficult for me to say, because I'm going to say this a few times. Edge of a ledge. Sometimes, because like you'd want to get to the edge of the ledge before you do the jump so that you could make sure that you aim it appropriately, spikes would be on the side wall, and it would deem that I had touched the spikes on the side of the wall, even though I'm still on the edge of the ledge. And so that happened quite often, and you'll probably see in my gameplay footage that I might be doing some really over-exuberant jumps off of the edges of ledges because spikes are on the side, and it was catching me out. And it seemed like such an odd thing to have happen in this game. And it just annoyed me a little bit. And it's really the only kind of picky bit for this game that I could talk about, because it's a perfectly serviceable platformer, but it's also totally unmemorable, I think is probably the best way that I can describe this, because it's so simple. The other thing that I think is a bit of a cheek, and this is me going on a bit of a rant here, is that the game says it's got 100 levels. It's got 50. After 50, it shows a message saying thank you for playing, and then drops you into level 51. And it looks oddly familiar, and it's because levels 51 to 100 are levels 1 to 50, but you're going from the exit door to the entry door. Now this in theory could have been quite fun. However, levels are almost uniformly exactly the same if you're going from one direction to another. It never poses any new or interesting ideas or problems to overcome or anything like that whatsoever. So it just feels like a bit of a swizz. I'd have rather they'd have just said you've got 50 levels and then had the surprise of me being able to then go backwards the other way. But it didn't offer any unique or interesting gameplay mechanics or traits doing that. And I was already a little bit snoozy and bored from the very low skill level required to complete Froggie to begin with. So I didn't finish the reverse run, unfortunately. Not that that stopped me getting the platinum, because you get that after level 50. So if you want a cross-buy easy platinum for PS4 and 5, Froggie is a serviceable platformer, but it's extremely, extremely easy. And so don't expect a challenge coming in here, which is what I was thinking it would be with like a proper retro platformer. Just 20-25 minutes of very lightweight platforming entertainment of the most basic format. And that's a bit of a shame. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.